Good evening. This is the Hampstead Town Council meeting. I'm Mayor Chris Nevin. I just want to remind people that if you would like to make a comment, you can leave it on CMC's Facebook page during the meeting at www.facebook.com whatever that is / Carroll Media Center, all one word /. Please remember that for your comment or question to be addressed, you must include your name and address in your submittal. So, and I already did get one earlier, which we'll address toward later end of the meeting. So, in addition to me tonight, by video, you're being joined by Councilwoman Marlene Duff and Councilman Dave Unglesby, Councilwoman Deb Painter, and then by audio only, Councilman Joe Renahan and Councilman Wayne Thomas. Kevin Han, our Superintendent of Public Works, is on with us. Tammy Ledley, our town manager, and Chief Snyder, Dave Snyder, is also going to be joining us by video only. And between CMC and Jim Rourke on the town staff side, they're in the back making sure all this goes off flawlessly. So I'll start with the opening prayer, sort of much the same as it was last month. Jim, why'd you do that? Thank you. Got to be able to pull it up. All right. Lord, in this unique time, a blessing to all the healthcare workers taking care of the sick and the first responders keeping us safe. Also a blessing to all the service people manning the checkout counters, the kitchens, and those keeping the shelves stocked in the retail businesses which remain open to serve us. Lord, please continue to watch over the town of Hampstead, keeping it safe and healthy. And finally, please grant the wisdom necessary for our state and national leadership to take the steps and appropriate steps to let off the social distancing policies and open our society again. So with that, we've done the roll. I'll do the request a motion for the minute approvals from the council meeting on April 14th.
So moved.
Second.
So that was Wayne moving it and Dave seconding it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. All right. Tammy, we'll do the town managers and Main Street revitalization update report, please.
We're still holding our meetings via phone, talking via email. Because of the pandemic guidelines, state highway personnel are not allowed to have face-to-face meetings. We had an issue with outage among several lampposts on the lower southbound lane. It has been resolved and the lights are functioning properly. One issue was resolved by repairing wiring. To address a second concern, the photocells on 2 of the equipment boxes were adjusted to prevent several lampposts from staying lit during daylight hours. State Highway has received a permit application from BG&E to drop power to the 3rd photocell equipment box located by Gill Avenue. This box provides power to the lampposts in the downtown area, which are not lit, and we're waiting for the power drop. On May 13th, tomorrow, the new signal at Maryland 482 and Route 30, the 42 and Route 30 intersection will be activated and the old signal will be removed. So please expect delays as they flag that intersection again. After installing the sidewalk, curb, gutter, lampposts, and landscaping on a northbound lane, CJ Miller has switched to the southbound lane. Crews are traveling south as they demolish sidewalks, and currently they're installing curb and gutter. After the fire, the owners of 1222 Main Street were required to install a sprinkler system in the building. This system must have a separate water service line. A pre-construction meeting was held yesterday, and their contractor plans to install a 2.5-inch service line in the next couple weeks. After this work is completed, the sidewalk will be patched with asphalt, since this area will be receiving new sidewalks this year as part of our Main Street revitalization project. With our small businesses, Jim Rourke is keeping all of them up to date on available federal, state, and county funding and sharing it immediately with our small businesses as soon as he finds out about the different programs. Our commercial and residential projects continue to move forward. I have been communicating with the developers and county staff via phone and email. Mayor's going to be talking about our promotion we had recently. And with the census, the 2020 census, the online, phone, and mail self-responses continue to be counted through the data collection process. The original ending date for the self-response phase has been prolonged from July 31st to October 31st. The new scheduled time for census takers to interview households in person that have not responded is August 11th through October 31st. Lastly, the deadline to deliver the final data to the president has been extended to April 30th, 2021. We encourage residents to please complete their 2020 census so everyone is counted. And that is it.
Thank you, Tammy. Any questions for her? We'll go on to oversights. Marlene, you're first up with some, I'm sure, some farmers market news. You're on mute, Marlene.
Got it. I do have some information, and Wayne, feel free to chime in if, as I'm getting this information secondhand from Keith, you're at the Zoom meetings of the advisory team. So if I misspeak or don't get something right, please feel free to correct me. The market is going to open as scheduled on Saturday, June the 6th. Operating hours will remain the same, 8:30 a.m. to 12 noon. Same place, the fire department's carnival grounds, 1341 North Main Street. Until state and federal regulations are lifted or revised, the market will function on a pre-order and pre-pay basis only. No walk-up shopping will be permitted. Customers will be required to place orders through participating individual vendors prior to June the 6th, and then each week thereafter until further notice. Customers may pick up their purchases during regular market hours, and it is strongly suggested that only one person per family pick up the purchases. Customers and vendors will, of course, need to observe state-mandated hygiene guidelines, meaning face masks must be worn at the market, and the 6-foot distancing rule must be observed. No pets will be permitted at the market until further notice, and that'll be something that people will be disappointed about because we always had many pets. The complete list of vendors currently permitted to operate at the market can be found on the market's Facebook page and the market's website. 17 vendors will be participating, 2 of whom are new for the 2020 season: Allview Acres Produce and Baked Goods and Schroll's Gourmet Foods. It's fortunate that nearly 2,000 folks have been reached on the market's Facebook page regarding the new operating procedures, so hopefully most people will be familiar with this. I want to say a huge thank you to Keith Johnson and the market's advisory team, of which Councilman Thomas is a member, for the prudent and timely manner in which all of these challenges concerning opening and operating the market have been handled. Also, a major thank you goes to Danette Campaneschi, the market's media liaison, for maintaining the Facebook page, posting updates regularly regarding the market's opening, responding to Facebook inquiries, and also handling inquiries from the Carroll County Times and other news outlets. Last but not least, a huge thank you goes out to Wayne Thomas Jr., who designed and currently maintains the market website. He did an amazing job reconfiguring the website to list the participating vendors and worked with Danette to send out a timely email blast to all subscribers on the website. So while the 2020 market season will start under very challenging circumstances, it proceeds in very capable hands. And that's it.
Thanks, Marlene. Dave, why don't we go with you?
Okay. April 2020 average water usage was 342,000 gallons per day. May 2020 average water usage so far has been 332,000 gallons per day. Rainfall total for April 2020 was 5.0 inches. And rainfall total so far for May 2020 is 1.4. That's all I have. Thank you.
It was a wet April and the trend continues. We need sun. Deb, you want to go next?
Sure. We did not hold our planning and zoning meeting last month as there was nothing pressing on the agenda. So I am hoping, I haven't seen the notes, but I'm thinking that we may be meeting the 27th of this month.
Okay. Simple. Thank you. Joe?
Parks are open. Exercise. Please exercise social distancing.
Well stated. Wayne?
Hampstead Train Station Committee has decided, sadly, that we're going to cancel Music in the Park for this year. We couldn't figure out a way that we could work around the restrictions. And as far as opening, until they start allowing businesses that are not essential to open, the train station will remain closed. Tree Commission has not had a meeting. We did have about 50 trees planted up in North Carroll Farms Section 4 to replace the ones that had died. We're looking to do another planting later on this year that we can declare that to be Arbor Day. That's all I have.
Thank you. Chief Snyder? Chief, you're on mute. There you go.
There we go.
And we
I
have a picture.
Traffic safety during April resulted in 2 citations and 2 warnings. Obviously, traffic has not been our major focus and certainly was impacted by the various COVID restrictions. We did conduct 1,492 property checks in businesses. That's where primary focus has been during this time. With reference to serious crime, we investigated a second-degree domestic assault, 2 thefts. One was later found to be unfounded. We investigated 1 attempted burglary. We handled a CDS possession incident and a series of violations of a protective order. Ultimately, we were able to have an individual taken into custody in Virginia. We hope to have people down there on Friday to extradite him back to Carroll County. 7 adults were taken into custody. We had no juvenile incidents. And our training has, we have a list that is suspended as a result of COVID. We've sort of morphed and converted into a series of video-related training that we hope will be able to help us meet our state mandates. And that's about everything I have.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Then I guess it's my mayor's report. The first thing we had was the mayor. We did a Mother's Day flower giveaway. Every May, the PTAs and the PTOs at Hampstead Elementary and Spring Garden give a flower to each student to take home. And of course, with schools closed, that wasn't possible this year. So we decided to continue the tradition by having this giveaway, and we purchased 960 petunias, quite well-grown, well-bloomed petunias, which required some work on our end to separate. But we were up for the challenge, thanks to my wife and Pat Hentz and Stacy Malinowski and Laurie Kuntz stepping in to separate all of them that were delivered in an 8-pack, getting them down to single packs and then wrapping them individually. We purchased them through True Value, which is, of course, a local business, and we set up a drive-through operation in our municipal parking lot in the rain last Friday night and the record cold last Saturday morning, and gave away about 600 flowers to various students as their parents drove up. It was a real team effort. Our thanks to Wendy Lachère, who's the principal, and I apologize if I'm butchering that last name, but she's the principal at Spring Garden. She joined us at both days and was delighted to see her students, and it was amazing how many she knew by name. It was a total team effort with the town hall staff, Tammy, Ledley, and Jim Rourke. There was initially their idea, easy one to say yes to. Public Works helped out, police department helped out. Deb Painter showed up, Dave showed up, Wayne showed up. So it was quite quite a gathering of folks, and it was a great event to do. So with the leftover flowers, Jim and I rode up and down Main Street on Saturday afternoon and delivered them to various restaurants that were open so they could give them away for Mother's Day gifts as well. And that was very much appreciated. So a neat community event to be able to do. And it was very well received. And my thanks to everybody for pulling it off without a hitch. We're now in week 8 of the shutdown, and our town continues to handle it all very well with staffing and any issues that are coming up, although I get the growing sense of being tired with it and being very frustrated with the lack of opening back up. I know there's a lot of, we're out there every day, there's a lot of businesses on Main Street that the restaurants, takeout only, that, they're not set up for that. You need to have people coming in. And sitting down to eat as well. The local businesses, why a Target and a Walmart's allowed to be open, but a local jewelry shop that might have 2 people in it all at one time is closed is beyond me. But I hope we get around to getting things squared away and getting going sooner rather than later. It's been one of the, I guess, positives of all this is been having weekly meetings with the Carroll County mayors. Since apparently we all have some time on our hands and we're not out and about as much. And there's been a lot of good conversation, a lot of good topics discussed. Of course, later on in the agenda, you'll hear about our budget, which we're introducing tonight. So there's been a lot of discussion about budget and what we're doing in various expense categories and what we think is going to happen with the income side of things. We've discussed various community promotional initiatives, how businesses are getting along or not getting along in the shutdown. We've talked about staffing, parks and recs, and the fact they're open and what kind of guidelines we've had. And then as we consider reopening, what guidelines we're going to have to put in place to make sure that happens smoothly. We've also talked a fair amount about the Maryland Municipal League, which represents all 157 towns and cities in the state of Maryland. There was a lot of discussion because the summer conference scheduled for the end of June is now canceled, and they're trying to replace it with a virtual conference that would be held over about a day and a half in late June. So, it's just a continuing snowballing effect and continuing impact as with all the shutdowns. So I mentioned the local restaurants before. I mentioned them last month. I continue to urge you to get carry out from them. They've all taken the necessary steps to social distance and put up the plexiglass dividers and whatnot. And if Mother's Day was any indication, they were all very, very busy given the wait times that everybody had to experience. But I think everybody understood why. And your business, every single bit of that business is truly appreciated by them at this point in time. As an update on the virus tracking, I'm sure many of you know that there's coronavirus.maryland.gov, which gives breakdowns by county and by zip code of how the coronavirus is impacting the state. Thank goodness Carroll County has been one of those largely spared, except for the nursing homes. Pretty much half of the cases that are noted in Carroll County are as a result of the nursing home, and everybody knows that this virus is very hard on the elderly and the people who are sick. And that's unfortunate, but, overall, Hampstead's been spared. We've had over an 8-week period, 24 cases. Manchester, immediately to our north is sitting at 19. So there are clearly, areas of the state that are very much impacted more than we are. But yet we, will continue to endure and get through this. So that's my comments, and I guess a little editorial thrown in there as well. So I don't think we have any unfinished business under new business.
Yes.
But
just a note. I talked to the representative from BG&E who was helping out with the light program, and with respect to street lights, BG&E has gotten additional money through a program associated with what's going on. And they're now covering 90% of the cost of replacing streetlights. So that is an excellent news for us. I just want to make sure everybody is aware of that.
Good. All right. So the first thing we have to do is we have some budget transfers that we typically have to do this time every year because there are certain areas of the budget that run hot, others that run cold. And with snow removal being a lack of cold and a lack of snow this year, we were able to move some money around. You know, of course, we budget for snow removal every single year of I think a total of about $30,000. And I think this is the first year in my memory of you know, in my service to the town that we've hardly even touched it. You know, many years we of course blow right through it, and there's a transfer from the reserve to cover that. But there's always money in reserve to cover, you know, surprise snowstorms and heavy accumulations. But thank goodness this year was a light one. So there's two different motions. One we'll do for the general fund. So basically, we took the opportunity to do several security enhancements in town hall with safety film on windows and doors, electronic latch systems, steel barriers, and high impact bollards. With the recent stuff that's been going on, you know, it was well past time for us to do that. So we're transferring $14,000 from snow removal to government building maintenance and repairs to cover that. And then the second one was to transfer $7,000 from snow removal again to office equipment and maintenance repairs. And primarily that was a result of our fixed asset system was dating back more than a decade. And if you know anything about systems and computers, well, that just not going to be compatible anymore. So we had to get an upgrade for the data conversion into the new system for the fixed assets. It was unexpected and not budgeted. So that's the reason for that move. And you'll hear more about in the budget and I guess in the month to come about us upgrading in general our entire suite for the computers. And then the third one is transfer of $3,200 from snow removal to public works equipment and supplies. This was basically purchasing a new trailer for hauling equipment to job sites. It was originally budgeted for fiscal year 21, but we had leftover funds, so we decided to move it forward and get that piece of equipment now. And it was less than the hurdle for us to be in the capital improvement plan. So we did put it into the operating plan, but it required us to do this adjustment. And the last one was a $4,600 transfer to capital roads. And that deals with, we're currently redoing Upper Ford Lane with CJ Miller doing that work. And they suggested that we use a fabric between the surfaces, and that will enhance and extend the life of the road. So that required a slight increase to the overall budget. So we're making that one as well. So is there a motion to make those transfers in the general fund?
Make a motion to approve the revisions to the general fund.
Second.
Second by Dave.
Need a roll call.
Yep. Any further discussion? All right. Roll call, since it's a transfer involving the budget. Deb Painter,
Yes.
Dave Oglesby,
Yes.
Marlene Duff, just give me a thumbs up.
Yes. I logged out for some reason.
You're
Just trying
good.
to get back.
Joe Renahan
Yes.
and Wayne Thomas.
Yes.
All right. And then the second set of transfers are in the water fund. Switch over the pages here. 6,000 from the reserve to water leak repairs. There were 3 fire hydrants that required replacement. Repairs 9,000 were not budgeted. Also, there was a larger water leak at the Hampstead marketplace. Thank God we've had fewer and fewer of those since we replaced the Main Street main. And so they were unexpected occurrences, which resulted in this need for this transfer. The second one is a $9,000 transfer from the reserve to water operating rental/contractual services. This was required for professional engineering to review the county's plans to ensure proper precautions were taken to the sewer lines being close proximity to our water lines. Don't want those two mixing. So this was not budgeted. Also, there was an increase in the service contracts for the pump house generators and for the new meter readers, causing this line item to go over budget. And that number was 9,000. And the last one was 5,000 from the reserve to equipment and supplies. The revision to this request is purchase of the new trailer that was split in the general fund. There's always a split. In this case, 80% to the water fund, 20% to the general, for the aforementioned one and the prior one. So is there a motion for these transfers?
I'll make a motion to transfer to the water fund.
Wayne Thomas seconds.
Okay. And any discussion on this? Well, and then we'll do the roll call. Deb,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Marlene,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and Wayne.
Yes.
Okay. So, introduction of the fiscal year 2021 budget. Basically, we're going to be introducing the budget with a couple of ordinances and a resolution that will immediately follow. Things are going along swimmingly in the economy. And then, as everybody knows, the virus happened. And so income has been totally thrown to the wind and is a total question mark at this point. I would say that I'm very comfortable with where we are in property tax revenue. Income tax revenue is a total wild card, and highway user revenue is impossible to determine right now. I think it's going to get slashed very significantly. I'm a perfect example. Nobody's commuting anywhere anymore, and I'm on the same tank of gas now for 8 weeks. My car doesn't know how to behave. So, but on the other side of the things, expenses are fairly certain. We know they're going up. We know there's still stormwater management work that the state's requiring us to do. We know there's still employees that need to be paid. So, but overall, we're still in a very good financial condition to meet these challenges. What we're proposing is the general fund is basically balanced at $3,293,000, which is a 1.3% decrease from last year's budget. And I would say that it's a bigger decrease from what we're actually experiencing because the economy was moving along very good up until March. The water fund is also balanced at $1,423,000, but the water fund still owes the general fund $308,000. That's a significant improvement from several years ago when the water fund owed over $1 million to the general fund, and it resulted in us having to increase the water rates for a few years in a row. The capital plan, not a lot of surprises to it. So in the next year, the biggest expenditures, there's a couple of vehicles that we need to buy for the police cars that are now getting to be long in the tooth and needing a lot of repairs. Maintenance truck needs to be done. So there's not a lot going on for next year other than I think we're doing something with the North Tower water tower that is now 20 years old. After next year, that tower the bond on that will be paid off because it is 20 years old. And so we're going to need to consider doing some repairs to it, but that's not in the next fiscal year. In the next fiscal year, one of the, landmarks of the town, which is the old water tower that sits behind the fire department, that's coming down. We've budgeted a cost of $60,000 for that. And I doubt it's going to cost that much based on a preliminary cost estimate that Kevin got for us. All things considered, we're good there. There's some big items that are still out there and a few years out, one of which we have to make a decision on. There's still some 1936 pipe that goes off of Main Street in various areas as to replacing that. This is probably a good time to consider doing that. Maybe we move it up from 2022 to 2021 to do that. That's $800,000 to the water system. Obviously, that new pipe will benefit the system for a very long period of time, and we will look to bond it for a very long period of time as well. But overall, the water system's in much better shape than it's ever been. The general fund, we're hanging in there. And as I said, the income is a total question mark, and the expenses, we have a clue. There's no planned increase in the property tax. That's still set at 22 cents. It's on the low end of any other town in Carroll County, and the business personal property tax is still set at 55 cents. That is not going to increase either. And there's no planned changes in the water rates for the second year in a row either. So, if there's ever a word, I guess it's sort of trying to minimize the surprises of this, but we may need to revisit some things as we move along through the summer and into the fall and see the true impact of what this virus has done to the economy. So,
Great.
Over on
That's
ordinance.
great.
Yeah, Joe, you got a question?
Yeah, I do. For police, capital, $100,000 next year. What does that include?
2 SUVs.
2 SUVs.
Yep.
Okay.
Fully equipped, wrapped, lights, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
So
Joe. The one thing with the SUVs used to be they could transfer all their equipment from the old car to a new car, but they don't fit anymore. So they also have to equip it. Let's put all the equipment in.
Yeah, no question about that. The only question was, you know, what was it? You know, I knew it was something tremendous, but, you know, it was just the figure that stuck out.
Yep.
Normally, I knew the $40,000 figure was for one. So
normally we do one a year, but we
Yeah.
have a new officer who's on board, and we have basically a car that was totaled, and we have one that's being used for spare parts. So it's time to bite the bullet and buy two in a year.
Okay.
So
All right.
there's the Nevin rule that we're pretty much getting close to, which is, whichever comes last, 10 years or 150,000 miles. And a couple of those cars have reached the 10 years.
Okay.
Let's see. So first thing on ordinances and resolutions is an introduction of Ordinance 535, which is an ordinance for the levy of taxes for the fiscal year 2021, which begins on July 1st, which maintains the real property tax at 22 cents and the business personal property tax at 55 cents. Is there a motion to introduce?
Move to introduce.
Make a motion to introduce 535.
Well, Joe, we'll take that as a second since Marlene beat you to the punch.
Okay.
Any discussion of the introduction? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. And then introduction of Ordinance 536, which is an ordinance to adopt the annual budget of the town of Hampstead for the period July 1 through June 30th, 2021. Motion?
Second.
Oh, who made the first? Deb? Okay.
Deb's on mute, but she motioned.
Okay. So Deb with the first and Dave with the second. Any discussion on the introduction of 536? And prior to us adopting, we anticipate adopting these ordinances on our June meeting, but we'll have a public hearing related before that. And obviously you can get a copy of these budgets and the capital improvement plan from Town Hall. They'll be posted online prior to, and if you have any questions, you can certainly email them in. We can either handle them before that meeting or during that meeting, but I'll go over the budget in probably a little bit more detail at that meeting as well before we vote on it. So all those in favor of Ordinance 536?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. And then the last one is the introduction of Resolution 2020-01, which is the resolution regarding water rates. Jim has put that up in the background here. And as you can see what that is, it's a graduated scale, and there are no changes to those rates for the coming fiscal year. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to that.
Okay, Dave, thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Wayne. Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. Motions are all introduced, or the ordinances and the resolution are all introduced. Public comments. I don't know if we've had any during the meeting. I'm not seeing anything on my screen, so I assume we haven't. We did get one by email earlier. My name is Frank, and if I apologize if I butcher this, Afala, and I live at 1300 Taylor Street in Hampstead, which is obviously just out of town. My question has to do with the increase in my water bill. I live just outside of town limits, and my water bill is more expensive than my sewer bill. My family used 9,000 gallons of water, and it cost us $135, while the sewer bill was $109.74. When we lived in town, the water was much cheaper than the sewer, and our pressure was much better. At this point, our PSI is running at 45 PSI, which is concerning. My question is there anything we can do to not increase the water bills of residents of Hampstead living right outside the town limits? Thank you for your time. And Frank, as we've just pointed out, there is no plan to increase the water rates for the next fiscal year. So in that regard, you're good. And I'll push off the other question on the PSI to Kevin Han.
So, as you all know, those streets, Taylor, Summit, and Hillcrest, were added to the water system as a result of a problem with the water in the wells in that area. The time frame that was done, I do not believe, because they were put in quickly because people had water quality issues. There was no study done to the system to see what the pressures are. Taylor, Summit sit pretty high on the hill there. And likewise, the pressures are not extremely high there, but I will check tomorrow to see what the pressure is at the street to rule out any problem with the gentleman's service line.
Thank you, Kevin. So we'll follow up on that.
Chris, you might also want to remind him that I believe the water rates are twice as much outside town limits as they are inside limits.
Noted. Thanks, Wayne. So, anything else from anybody on the meeting? Any council people? Anything else to add? We're all good?
Good.
All right. Well, thank you. I think we got this over in about 36 minutes, but appreciate your flexibility. I truly hope that maybe there's a way for us to sit around town hall and do this face to face next month, but we'll see. I'd much rather see you all in person and obviously do all this in person. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right.
Just before you adjourn.
What was that, Tammy?
One comment before you adjourn. As you had mentioned with the budget, they can send questions in. Obviously, we can't have an open discussion until the June meeting. But if anybody has a question, once we send out the document for the budget and anybody has a question, they are welcome to send the questions in. We can answer questions that the council has. We can also put amendments to the budget. We just can't have an open discussion amongst everyone. And of course, we can't make any approvals until the June meeting.
Thank you. Noted. All right. Well, again, my thanks to Jim. Well, I guess a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And again, my thanks to Jim Rourke for setting this up inside and for CMC for carrying this out on a broader scale with Channel 23. So much appreciated. So everybody hang in there, and hopefully we're seeing you face to face in sometime very near future. Thanks again. Good night.
Night.
Good night.